Next is the story of how I thought I met the man of my dreams and ended up living a nightmare. After leaving my husband, I discovered a box of journals that I had kept over the span of my 20-year marriage and had completely forgotten about. The journals show the slow escalation of abuse from mild to dangerous. The names and some identifying details have been changed for privacy and protection. Note that this series does include stories of verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse, so please take care. In this first installment, I'm going to share about my childhood because I think it does offer some perspective and is relevant to my journey. I'll try to keep it brief, but I could probably do a whole series about my childhood. I was one of 5 kids. We were unschooled by hippies turned crunchy yuppies in San Francisco. Pop an entrepreneur, mom an artist. She stayed home with us and brought her creativity into every aspect of our lives. We lived in an old storefront. Our playroom was this wide open space with a swing hanging from the 20-foot ceilings and huge windows overlooking the steep hills of San Francisco. In the corner was Mom's art table and her kiln, and there was a bookshelf covering one wall from floor to ceiling, a huge wood box filled with our collection of eccentric clothes for dress up. We had an elaborate setup for our dolls and their wardrobes, mostly sewn by Mom. Some days we peek out the windows or over the fence in the yard, and we got a behind-the-scenes peek of the movies that were filmed there. The streets in our neighborhood were incredibly steep, but without the traffic found in the more touristy areas, so it made them a big draw for film crews. And we would see dramatic car chases, a grand piano being driven down the hill, and watching Kit, the car from Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff, was a personal favorite. Our education and lifestyle was eclectic. Working along Mom as she grew apples and veggies in our little city yard, learning how to make stained glass windows. I fell in love with Middle Eastern dance. We traveled internationally, spent summers working on farms and taking classes at the Lawrence Hall of Science, regularly exploring museums and going to the neighborhood library at least once a week, where we would take out a dozen books at a time. Mom and Pop take us all to the theater regularly, live theater. We learn from the world around us. Mom screaming out science every time she spots a spider spinning a web or an unusual cloud. Homeschooling was well on the fringes then, even in San Francisco. We were often featured on local news programs where we would inevitably be asked how we could possibly have friends if we aren't in school. And it was a childhood filled with lots of amazing experience, but there was this incredible lack of guidance and structure. When I was 10, I asked to work for my dad's business a few days a week to bring some consistency into my life. I started by taking inventory, entering orders, shipping packages, engaging with customers and vendors on the phone. My dad instills a strong work ethic, arguably too strong. I was only working a couple days a week, but I remember being chastised for taking days off for educational adventures with Mom. And as an adult, I came across a timesheet for my 10-year-old self. In the writing of a child was a timesheet for a 12-hour workday. We attend church every single week, often traveling long distances to find the church that resonates with my parents. They were really religious, but unlike some of the people we knew through homeschooling, they didn't homeschool us to shelter us from the world. And I do appreciate that. When I was about 12, my parents converted to Orthodox Christianity, and we were thrown into this whole new world and community. And my parents dove in hard. The services, which were long, periods of fasting throughout the year, confessions for all. And this conversion led to a incredibly traumatic occurrence in the family. And when I went to the priest about what I knew, I was told to go to confession and then told that I must have done something bad to bring this upon my family. And the priest grilled me with questions about whether I was having sex, doing drugs, dabbling in witchcraft. I wasn't, but the messages of obedience and chastity hit my young brain hard. At 15, I was still working for the family business, now representing the company at trade shows. My dad often assigns me the task of calculating pricing for customers or writing business letters that he would mark up with his fountain pen. I spent my spare time reading piles of books from the library, changing hard drives on computers, learning to type, or studying the little dictionary I carried around with me. And in many ways, it was a really vibrant and interesting upbringing, and it's one that I found a lot of gratitude for. But there were these gaping holes of knowledge, things that everyone else learned that I did not. And with my formal education ending in kindergarten, there is this deep insecurity about what I do and do not know. Has everyone else read the book someone just referenced? Is that a name I should be familiar with? I often kept my unorthodox education hidden because once it was brought up, skeptics felt entitled to give me a pop quiz of random things they thought I should know, a test to determine whether they find my education sufficient. Around what would have been my sophomore year of high school, I'm taking classes at the local community college and working part-time. I had originally intended to take classes for a few years, then transfer and get a degree. But a few semesters into my plan, 2 of my 3 professors are making inappropriate advances. And at the end of the semester, I don't return, instead going to work for my dad full-time. Friends my age are drinking and partying. I'm working full-time, taking business trips. At 18 years old, I am totally out of step with people my age and hanging with people far older in almost every aspect of my life. And outwardly, I seem to handle it really well, but developmentally, I am constantly swimming out of my depths. When I'm 19, I date a Greek guy who is a decade older. Giorgio has a great job, house of his own, a really nice car, and because of this really grown-up world that I'm immersed in on a daily basis, it doesn't seem weird. But I'm incredibly innocent and naive. The first time I go to his place, we're making out when he pulls a gun from under a cushion on his sofa just to let me know it was there. A few weeks later, on a hiking trip, he looks over at me on the trail and comments that maybe he should get me on a bike so I could work on my thighs. I choke back tears and pretend it doesn't hurt. The red flags are absolutely glaring, but I completely ignore them. Months later, we attend the local Greek festival together, dancing, eating, having a great time. At the end of the evening, we walk to his car, parked in the darkness of the furthest parking lot. And when we get to his car, Giorgio tells me that I'm dressed like a slut and how embarrassing it is to have me out in public looking like that. I'm in shock, standing there wearing an innocent floral sundress as he gets in his car and drives off, leaving me standing alone in the dark in this isolated parking lot in my sundress, as he put it, looking like a slut. He later apologizes, and I stupidly think that that is enough. And when he tells me he wants to break up because he isn't sure how he feels about me and wants to have his options open when he goes on his trip to Greece, I'm heartbroken. Shortly after his return, he calls and tells me he loves me and begs for me to take him back. I agree to have dinner with him, but I have no intention of getting back together with him. When he picks me up, I'm wearing the slutty floral dress that he criticized, and I believe that I have learned enough to know how I expect to be treated, and I never saw him again. Later that year, I'm returning to work during my lunch break when I hear this horrible scraping sound coming from my car. I park outside our office and bend down on my hands and knees in my long, flowy dress, trying to fix the spoiler that has partially fallen off the bottom of the car. I look to see this tall, handsome stranger coming out of the cabinet shop next door, rugged and offering to help, and I happily accept his offer. He puts the spoiler back in place, I thank him, and go inside to send my sister an email to tell her about the cute neighbor who came to my aid. A week later, I'm leaving the office, and Jim, my rugged, handsome neighbor, is getting in his truck. He calls out to me and asks if I would like to go out to dinner on Friday night. Do you mean tomorrow? I ask him. Yeah, he says, and I accept his offer with excitement. Jim picks me up at the house where I still live with my family. The youngest siblings, Elizabeth and Christian, are just 5 and 7, and quite the entrepreneurs. They have learned that their older sister's dates offer lucrative money-making opportunities, and as usual, they have drawn pictures and tied together wildflowers and weeds from the backyard to hawk them to prospective suitors as they arrive. And what jerk would not buy something from these cute kids? It's ingenious. Most would even give a little extra. And Jim arrives. He's wearing this baby blue pinstripe linen MC Hammer balloon pants and a turtleneck under a sweater which is cut wide and falling off his shoulders, and black socks with these black tasseled loafers that looks like he probably wore them in high school. We get in his truck and he takes me to this beautiful dinner and then suggests going to a bar to hear some live music. He's surprised when I tell him I'm not 21 yet, and I'm surprised he's 9 years older. We shift our plans and go to the beach. Sitting under the glow of the moon, he asks me about myself in a way that no one ever has. He listens so intently and expresses such interest. He doesn't hold my hand, kiss me, or paw at me in the way so many dates do. It's a really nice change, and I feel seen and heard like I have never felt before. He drops me home. It's late, maybe 2 a.m., and I wake my parents up and tell them that even if he never asks me out again, that date has changed everything, and I know how I want to be treated. But I don't hear from Jim after that date. He had mentioned inviting me to a pumpkin carving party the next weekend, but never did. No call, no second date. A week passes, then 2. I'm leaving work one day, and he's in his truck. He calls me over, rolls down his window, and passes out this beautiful hardcover book that he knew would be significant to me. And it was from his collection of books from his childhood home. And pressed inside is a maple leaf from the backyard of his family home in Pennsylvania. Then he rolls up his windows and drives off. I am flattered, impressed, and completely confused. I don't know what to make of it, so I talk obsessively with my friends and try to make sense of it. I want to see him again, so I decide to invite him to a party that my sister and I are having. It is one of our very unique but typical for us parties. Friends will be singing and playing music. I'll be doing a dance performance. My sister and I cook for days to prepare. I invite Jim by putting a note on his truck, and he comes to the party. He spends much of it talking about the talents of my sister, Elena, and her friend Kate, and I wonder if he's into one of them. A few days later, he invites me to have a bonfire on the beach, and it is incredibly romantic. We talk for hours, and I feel so heard and seen and understood, but again, he doesn't touch me, doesn't hold my hand or kiss me, but I do feel this thrill when I feel his foot touch mine under the sand. It's kind of refreshing, but also confusing. I wonder if he's gay. Is he just looking for a friend? Then, on Halloween evening, I'm working late, and as I leave the office, wearing a black mini dress and striped witch tights, he is leaving too, and stops to ask if I would like to have dinner with him that evening. And we have this really nice meal, and then drive to the beach, where he grabs my hand for the first time and finally kisses me. And honestly, it was not a great kiss, but I was so swept away by the whole experience, I let it pass. We're inseparable after this, seeing each other every day. He writes me the sweetest notes and tucks them on the windshield of my car, leaves messages of poetry on my answering machine. He buys me the most personal and thoughtful gifts I have ever received, and showers me with affection and attention, and instead of the skepticism I'm used to it, my lack of formal education, he seems enamored by my skills and accomplishments, the unique experiences that I've had. Have you heard the word autodidact, he asks me. I hadn't. His definition is peppered with validation for how I've taught myself anything I put my mind to and how enamored he is by that. He's older, getting his master's degree, and affirms over and over again that what I had been told were weaknesses by so many, he found to be strengths. And I ate it right up. Within 5 weeks, he has floated the idea of marriage. I'm flattered, but I point out that I'm only 20 and it's way too soon. But I was pretty sure that I had met my future husband. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to hear the rest of this story. And you can also visit my blog at metamorphosistoolbox.com. I have a blog where I share some of the resources I used in getting out of my relationship and some of the healing tools that I discovered along the way. And I hope that you